What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. Today, I'm doing my updated 2023 NASCAR silly season predictions. Let's go ahead and jump straight into it. We're going to do all the full-time and the part-time entries as well. Let's jump into it. We're going to start off with the one car for Trackhouse Racing. This one's already confirmed. Ross Chastain will be back in the one car with Trackhouse Racing in 2023. Ross Chastain has been one of the best drivers so far in the 2022 season so far, and I expect that he's going to carry that on for many, many years to come. He's really found his home in place at Trackhouse Racing, and I expect that Ross Chastain is going to continue being a really successful driver in the Cup Series, whether it's 2023, 2024. Would not shock me in the next couple years if he wins a championship, but he will be back in the one car in 2023. Up next, we'll talk about the two car for Team Penske. This one's already confirmed. Austin will be back in the two car with Team Penske in 2023. Of course, the 2022 Daytona 500 winner who won as a rookie and has been arguably the most successful rookie so far in a very, very long time. Austin, though, has been a little bit down on points, but I expect Cindric to really bounce back in 2022, and I think in 2023 he's only going to become a better driver. For a rookie, he's been extremely solid. Despite that win, he's been really solid so far in the Cup Series, about as good as a rookie can be, and I expect Cindric to improve in 2023. Up next, talking about the three car for Richard Childress Racing. Well, we don't really ever know who's in the RCR cars later in the season. Austin Dillon's getting back in the three car in 2023. Austin Dillon, of course, is a grandson of Richard Childress, who owns Richard Childress Racing. Austin Dillon's been a solid driver with Richard Childress Racing over the last couple of years. He's probably going to need a win to make the playoffs this year, but Austin Dillon's been a very, very solid driver at Richard Childress Racing. He's become a very, very formidable driver in this series, and he'll continue driving the three car for Richard Childress Racing in 2023. Up next, talking about the four car for Stewart-Haas Racing. This one's already confirmed. Kevin Harvick will be back in the four car with Stewart-Haas Racing in 2023. Kevin Harvick's contract currently goes through 2023, and I expect that 2023 is going to be the last season for Kevin Harvick. Kevin Harvick at starting next year is going to be 47 years old, and by the end of the year, he's going to be 48, being the oldest full-time NASCAR Cup Series driver. So my expectations are is at the conclusion of the 2023 season, Kevin Harvick is going to announce the retirement. Whether it's late in 2022 or early 2023, Kevin Harvick will retire after the season. Up next, talking about the five car for Hendrick Motorsports. This one's already confirmed. Kyle Larson is going to be back in the five car for Hendrick Motorsports, as of course he's got a contract with Hendrick Motorsports right now through 2023. Now, what I expect around the five car Kyle Larson is I do think by the end of this season, I expect that Kyle Larson is going to announce a multi-year extension with Hendrick Motorsports. I think it's going to release a 2 or 3 year deal that'll get him through the 2025 or 2026 season. While Kyle Larson is a little bit down compared to last year's stats, Kyle Larson is still in the top 10 in points, and I expect Larson to continue these great statistics and be a championship threat here in 2023 and 2022 as well. Up next, we're going to talk about the six car for RFK Racing. This one's already confirmed. Brad Keselowski is going to be back in the six car with RFK in 2023. Now, Brad Keselowski, no doubt this year has kind of struggled in the 2022 season so far. Currently sits around 28th in toward 28th or 29th in points. He's going to be needing a lot of good runs, unfortunately, to make the playoffs. He's going to need a win to make the playoffs this season. But I expect in 2023 versus his team, unfortunately, doesn't have a shot to make the playoffs. I expect Keselowski to have a lot of his focus in the 2023 season and beginning more to take in the ownership role of this team. Brad Keselowski is back in the sixth car in 2023. Up next, talk about the seven car for Spire Motorsports. While nothing is confirmed for Spire Motorsports past 2022, I predict that Corey LaJoie will once again be back in the seven with the team. Corey LaJoie has been a seasoned driver so far this year. I expect Spire to be a little more competitive this year, though, than they really have been, and generally have not seen a lot of major improvements from Spire Motorsports. Sure, Corey LaJoie's had some top 15s, some top 20s, and even a couple top 10s this year, but LaJoie's really never been that consistent contender. But I think Spire Motorsports is going to take that next step forward in 2023, and I think they're going to improve. So I believe that they are going to improve in 2023 with Corey LaJoie. Up next, we're talking about the 8 car for Richard Childress Racing. Well, we really don't ever know for sure when Richard Childress Racing is going to announce their stuff. We expect that Tyler Reddick's going to be back in the 8 car. While Richard Childress Racing has not announced it yet, he has said that he's expecting to exercise that 1-year option for Reddick to return to the team in 2023. Tyler Reddick is definitely a really, really good driver. It's just he's had a lot of bad luck so far this year. It's very similar when Kyle Larson was coming up to the race. And a lot of people thought that he would be in a similar position. He's kind of in the same position Kyle Larson was when he was at Chip Ganassi Racing. I think in the long-term future, Reddick is going to leave Richard Childress Racing in the next couple of years. I just think it's inevitable. possible he's going to go to a better team. But I think right now, at least for the near future, for at least the next couple of years, I expect that Tyler Reddick is going to continue to drive the 8 car for Richard Childress Racing. Up next, how about the 9 car for Hendrick Motorsports? This one's already confirmed. Chase Elliott will be returning to Hendrick Motorsports through at least the 2027 or the 2028 season. Chase Elliott this year has won 2 races so far, both of them coming on ovals, of course, earlier this year at Dover, and his past race at National Super Speedway. Chase Elliott's had a really strong year so far, and I anticipate that he is going to only continue to improve as a driver as he progressively gets older. Chase has been a solid driver and will continue to be with Hendrick Motorsports for many years to come. Up next, we're talking about the 10 car for Stewart-Haas Racing. We really don't have any confirmation currently at this moment on who's going to be driving the 10 car, considering the fact that Eric Almirola is going to be retiring from full-time competition after this season. So Stewart-Haas Racing is going to need a replacement to replace Eric Almirola after this season. My expectations is I believe it's going to be Ryan Preece. I know some people bring up John Hunter Nemechek, and that's very, very possible. But I think if John Hunter Nemechek is going to jump up the cup, I think it's going to be with a Toyota-based team. Some people bring up Noah Gragson, but I've got Noah Gragson going somewhere else. Ryan Preece also is basically the reserve driver for Stewart-Haas Racing and an developmental driver for Stewart-Haas Racing. So I know a lot of people think that Ryan Preece is going to be wait till after 2024 to make the jump full-time back up the cup, but I think Ryan Preece is going to take the 10 car in 2023. Up next, how about the 11 car for Joe Gibbs Racing? This one's already confirmed. Denny Hamlin will be back in the 11 car for Joe Gibbs Racing in 2023. Now, I do believe that Denny Hamlin is going to be nearing the end of his career. I think Denny Hamlin is going to retire within the next 3 or 4 seasons. But I think Denny Hamlin is still going to continue to have that really strong prowess about himself and consistency. Now, I expect him to be more consistent in 2023 than he was this year. He has been a little bit inconsistent so far in 2023, but I expect that consistency to start going back in the right direction here as we get far down the road in 2022. Up next, how about the 12th car for Team Penske? This one's already confirmed. Ryan Blaney will be back in the 12th car for Team Penske in 2023. Ryan Blaney, I believe, has a contract that goes through next season, so they're going to have to begin negotiations with Ryan Blaney. However, I expect that Ryan Blaney is going to get an extension with Team Penske here either at the end of this year or some point at the beginning of next year. Ryan Blaney's been a very solid competitor. He's not won a race so far in 2022, but I think he will get that contract negotiation extension, and I think he will continue driving for Team Penske long term. Up next, how about the 14 car for Stewart-Haas Racing? This one's already confirmed. Chase Briscoe once again will be back in the 14 car for Stewart-Haas Racing. We really never hear anything finalized until the end for Stewart-Haas Racing generally, but Chase Briscoe's a Ford developmental driver, came through the Ford ranks, so Ford is not going to want to get rid of a guy like Chase Briscoe. It just would not make sense to get rid of him. So that's why I anticipate Chase Briscoe to be back in the 14 car for Stewart-Haas Racing, and this year he's looked better than he did last season. Up next, how about the 15 car for Rickra Racing? Now, I do not anticipate Rickra Racing expanding going into the 2023 season. They're, I think, going to stay a 2-car team, and I think they're going to improve their organization. And I think the 15 car is going to be very similar to what we've seen in the past couple years. I expect the drivers like J.J. Yeley, Joey Hand, and David Reagan are going to drive this car. Drivers, of course, have driven the 15 car, along with guys maybe like Joey Gase and maybe Garrett Smith. They will get behind the wheel of this car, but I anticipate it will be another rotation car. Maybe they get some other all-star guys from the lower ranks to get in this car. That's my anticipation heading into 2023 for the 15 car for Rickra Racing. Up next, how about the 16 car for Kaulig Racing? Now, in 2022, Kaulig Racing's number 16 car has basically been a rotation-based car. However, I think Kaulig Racing is going to have 2 full-time entries with 2 full-time drivers. Matt Kaulig has said very recently that he's unsure if he's going to run 2 full-time cars or 1 rotation car and another full-time entry. My anticipation is it's going to be one of the drivers that is currently driving in the Kaulig Racing organization. It's not going to be Daniel Hemrick. I think Daniel Hemrick is going to return to the NASCAR Xfinity Series. My prediction is that I think Noah Gragson, who currently drives for Junior Motorsports right now, is going to drive the 16. Here's why I'm anticipating Noah Gragson. Noah Gragson has already said that he wants to go full-time cup racing. He said it came out publicly that he wants to go full-time cup racing. And I think Noah Gragson's got the opportunity to do that. I think he's capable of doing it. So I think that he will drive the 16 for Kaulig Racing in 2023 in that team. Up next, we're talking about the 17 car for RFK Racing. This one really never confirmed, but Chris Buescher, I anticipate, will be back in the 17 car for RFK. Chris Buescher's had an up and down year so far, already missed the race season due to COVID-19 protocols, missed it already this season. But I anticipate that Chris Buescher will be back in the 17. Chris Buescher currently sits around 20th and 21st in points. He doesn't have his crew chief for the next 4 races. He'll be back later in the season. But I think that Chris Buescher is a really, really good and a very talented driver, a very underrated driver in my opinion. Is a really good road course racer as well, and I will see him back in the 17 car in my opinion in 2023. Up next, we're talking about the 18 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. Now, I anticipate that Kyle Busch is going to be back in the 18 car in 2023. But I think he's only going to get a 1 or 2 year extension. Now, one of the biggest things around Kyle Busch right now is the issues with the sponsorship. Kyle Busch is still not found a sponsor yet for 2023. However, I think a company like Yahoo and some of the companies that basically they have that Joe Gibbs has, the Craftsman title sponsors, the ones that are in the Craftsman family, I think are going to generally be the ones that go ahead and sponsor Kyle Busch. So I think Kyle Busch is going to be in the 18 car once again in 2023. I think Toyota wants to keep him, and I know Kyle Busch wants to stay with them. So I expect Kyle Busch in the 18 once again in 2023. Up next, we're talking about the 19 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. This one's already been confirmed now. We all thought that was going to be John Hunter Nemechek, but now Martin Truex Jr. is going to be back in the 19 car for Joe Gibbs Racing in 2023. Now, it's unclear if this will be his last season with Joe Gibbs Racing, which it absolutely could be, or if Martin Truex Jr. is going to want to continue racing. Martin Truex Jr. is still a very solid driver despite not winning so far in the 2022 season. Martin Truex Jr., like I mentioned, is still a really good driver, and I anticipate that his talent is going to carry him still even in the next couple seasons. I think MTJ's got a few more years left in him, and I expect him to continue long-term racing, including next year in 2023 with JGR. Up next, we're talking about the 20 car for Joe Gibbs Racing. This one at this point has really already been confirmed. Cristobal, I anticipate, is going to be back in the 20 car for Joe Gibbs Racing in 2023. Cristobal really this year has really started to show what kind of potential he's had. His 3rd year in the Cup Series is looking really, really solid. While he's failed to win a race so far, Cristobal has had the sponsorship backing him and also is running in 8th in the regular season points and catching guys like Martin Truex Jr. and Kyle Larson. I anticipate that Cristobal is only going to continue to improve and grow as a driver, and I think he'll get some wins here in the future, but Cristobal will be once again back in the 20 car with Joe Gibbs Racing in 2023. Up next, we're talking about the 21 car for the Wood Brothers Racing. This one should really not surprise anybody. I anticipate that Harrison Burton is going to be back in the 21 car for the Wood Brothers organization. There really is nowhere to go for Harrison Burton outside of staying at the Wood Brothers, and I think Harrison Burton could potentially get better. There's been points Harrison Burton has shown some promise. He had top 15 speed at Nashville and also nearly got a top 10 in the Coke 600. But his rookie year has been very, very disappointing. He should have waited a year or two before making that official jump up the Cup. But I do believe that Harrison Burton is only going to get better with the more experience he has, and I think he improves heading into 2023 with the Wood Brothers. Up next, we're talking about the 22 car for Team Penske. This one is already confirmed. Joey Logano has a contract with Team Penske that goes through 2023. And very recently, up to about a month ago, it was kind of revealed out of nowhere that Roger is working on a deal for Joey Logano to continue working with the team long term. That contract extension, I believe, is expected to come through sometime here in the next couple weeks or in the next month or so. Logano's a really, really good driver. He's a championship contender, in my honest opinion, for 2023, and I believe he will continue staying with this team long-term, including next year in 2023. Up next, we're talking about the 23 car for 2311 Racing. This one's already confirmed. Bubba will also be back in the 23 car for 2311 Racing. Bubba Wallace, while he's had a little bit of a down year this year and has failed to score a victory, he does have a couple top 10s. The only thing that's affected Bubba Wallace right now is the picker. It's not his talent. Bubba Wallace has potential for 7 or 8 top 10s this year and could have around the same amount of top 10s as guys like Martin Truex Jr. and more top 10s like William Byron. It's a shame that Bubba Wallace has had a lot of bad luck this season, but hopefully they can turn it around heading into 2023. But we'll see Bubba Wallace back in the 23 car for 2311. Up next, talk about the 24 car for Hendrick Motorsports. This one's already been confirmed. William Byron is getting back in the 24 car for Hendrick Motorsports, I believe, through the 2025 season. You can correct me that in the comments, but William Byron has a contract now that goes to the 2025 season, which in my opinion is well earned. Now, William Byron has only had 5 top 5 10s this year, which is a little bit disappointing considering last year he was extremely consistent. But I think long-term, he's a long-term passion project for the Hendrick Motorsports organization. He's a good enough driver that can absolutely improve, and we're going to see William Byron back in the 24 car. And I think he's going to have start showing championship contender prowess. I think he will start doing that in the future. Up next, we're talking about the 27 car for Team Haysbers. Team Haysbers, I expect to return in 2023, and I think there's potential that they can run more races than they've ran this year. This week in Road America, they'll be making only their third start of the 2022 season. I expect them to run a lot more races, and the drivers I expect to be in the car are, no shocker here, Maurice Hasemans and Jacques Villeneuve. Both drivers are very, very solid drivers. I mean, Jacques Villeneuve got him in the Daytona 500, and I think Maurice Hasemans is capable enough to get it done. They're probably going to improve themselves as an organization and a team, and I anticipate this team will continue being back next year and running more races, including maybe some short tracks, and running more races than they have already. Up next, we're talking about the 29 car for Richard Childress Racing. That's right. I am anticipating that Richard Childress Racing is actually going to have a third car in 2023. This, however, is only going to be a part-time entry, and I think it's going to be the two guys that are currently in the Xfinity Series, that, of course, being Austin Hill and Sheldon Creed. Those two are the ones I anticipate getting behind the wheel of this number 29 car. The reason I think they're going to expand is I think they're going to get guys like Austin Hill and Sheldon Creed a little bit of Cup experience. Those guys currently run in the Xfinity Series, and I think they both will at least get a few starts. I'm not anticipating a ton of major starts for the team, but I believe that those two are going to make some select Cup starts in the 2023 season in a third Richard Childress Racing car. Up next, we're talking about the 31 car for Kaulig Racing. This one's already confirmed at this point. Justin Haley will be back in the 31 car for Kaulig Racing. Justin Haley, a few weeks ago or even a few months ago, was actually an outside playoff contender. He's kind of fallen away from that recently, but Justin Haley is a guy that's really good at super speedways, has had some potential at some of these shorter tracks as well, and I do believe that Justin Haley is only going to get better. Coming in this year, Justin Haley did not really have any high expectations, and generally I've been really surprised and really impressed with what Justin Haley has been able to do in the 31 car this year. I hope he continues to improve, and we'll see him back in the 31 car in 2023. Up next, we're talking about the 34 car for Front Row Motorsports. Well, we really never know what's going on with Front Row Motorsports for the 34 car. I anticipate that Michael Mcdowell is going to come back to the 34 team. Michael Mcdowell is having a career season. He's already scored 6 top 10s this year. He has 1 top 5 and has like a 17th place average finish altogether so far throughout the season, including a 12th place average finish in the last 9 races, has scored 5 top 10s. McDowell is becoming an outside playoff contender at the moment, and I anticipate he's only going to get better. Every year he's in this car, he only gets better, and I think with the longer he's in the car, the better he is going to continue to get. Up next, we're talking about the 38 car for Front Row Motorsports. Now, this one's already confirmed. Todd Gillen is going to be back in a 38 car with Front Row Motorsports. Todd Gillen has a multi-year deal currently with Front Row Motorsports, and they're not going to want to get rid of a guy like Todd Gillen. I know that Todd Gillen so far really has not shown a lot of promise this year. He hasn't had a lot of great runs, but I will say that Todd Gillen has definitely been better, I will say, than what Anthony Alfredo did. I think Todd should have ran some Xfinity Series races for getting the Cup, do not get me wrong, but I've seen some potential with him. He ran a truck race earlier this year in Knoxville and was able to win, so I think the more experience Todd gets, the only better he's going to get. So I think Todd Gillen will continue driving the 38 car. We know that at this point, but I think he's only going to get better over time. Up next, we're going to talk about the 40 car for NASCAR Motorsports. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. There's been a lot of rumors and rumblings over the last few weeks. The guy who runs the operations, Cody Efa, said and came on recently that he said that Nice is looking to run some Cup races. Now, Nice has never said full-time, but they're looking to jump away from the Xfinity and jump straight up the Cup. I think they're going to do it, and I think they're only going to run maybe a handful of races, around 6 to 8 races, and I think they're going to bring Carson Hocevar up the Cup. Now, I think NASCAR Motorsports is still going to continue racing the Truck Series to get Carson a lot of experience. I don't think Carson's going to do well, but I think that, especially when you have Cody Efa, who really wants to bring Carson up to the Cup Series, and I know Carson's great, I want to see this team will do it. I think they've got potential to do it, and I hope they do it in 2023, and I predict that we'll see NASCAR Motorsports in the Cup Series in 2023 with Carson Hocevar. Up next, we're talking about the 41 car for Stewart-Haas Racing. This one's already confirmed. Cole Custer is going to be back in the 41 car. Man, I wish I was not saying that. Cole Custer has been in the Cup Series now for 3 years and has really, really struggled. But the reason that Cole Custer is not going anywhere is because he's the son of the president of Stewart-Haas Racing, that, of course, being Joe Custer, who is the third in command at Stewart-Haas Racing. Cole Custer at some point is going to have to improve. Now, ultimately, Cole Custer is young enough where he has plenty of time to drastically improve this car. Because he's only about 24, 25 years old. That being said, though, when you've been in the Cup Series now for 3 years and every year you gradually get worse and your teammates gradually get a little bit better or do better than you, that's never a good sign. So Cole Custer is going to need to improve himself and start performing a lot better on the track. Otherwise, long-term, we may not see him in the ride. He needs to start improving. I think he needs to go back to Xfinity, but I anticipate that he will be back in this 41 car once again in 2023. Up next, we're going to talk about the 42 car for Petty GMS Motorsports. Well, we really don't have any confirmation at the moment for the 42 car for Petty GMS. My anticipation is that we're going to see Ty Dillon back in the 42 car with Petty GMS Motorsports. Ty Dillon has some funding behind him, Black Rifle Coffee, among other sponsors like Legion and GoTel that are sponsoring currently at the moment. And Ty Dillon has been okay with the team. They've not been really spectacular. But I think especially with that Cup Series experience and what the team really wants, they're not going to want to get rid of a guy like Ty Dillon. So my anticipation is that Ty Dillon is going to remain long-term with the team, and I believe he will continue driving the 42 car with the team in 2023. Up next, we're talking about the 43 car for Petty GMS Motorsports. While it's not been confirmed at this point, we are all anticipating that Eric Jones is going to be back with the 43 car in 2023. They said as of recently about this past week, and Eric Jones said that he's getting close to having a deal done to continue driving for Petty GMS Motorsports. And Eric Jones has been really exceptional considering the equipment. He's currently sitting in the top 20 in points right now, which is the best the 43 car has generally performed. And I think he wants to stay with the team and improve the team. So we're going to continue seeing Eric Jones, I believe, in the 43 car, and I think he's only going to get better over time. Up next, we're talking about the 44 car for NY Racing. NY Racing this year, 2022, has made some starts. However, they've not entered a race since Talladega, and Greg Biffle said as of recently in Sonoma that he's unsure when NY Racing is going to run. However, I think by the end of 2022, I anticipate that NY Racing is only going to run some more races in 2023, and I think they're going to be back running more races in 2022, and in 2023, they're going to try to run on a full-time basis with Greg Biffle. Greg Biffle's had top 25 and top 30 speed when the team's out there, just that they always have mechanical problems that really do affect them. But I think they're going to run more races in 2023. Maybe they call up a guy like Matt DiBenedetto, perhaps, to get in the ride. I'm not sure. We all anticipate that this team, too, could return, and they will be back with Greg Biffle. Up next, we're talking about the 45 car for 2311 Racing. This one's already confirmed. Kurt Busch will be back in the 45 car for 2311 Racing in 2023. This, however, is going to be the last season for Kurt Busch. And the reason is because Kurt Busch, at the conclusion of the 2023 season, is going to be 45 years old. And I do believe that Kurt Busch wants to do some work in the booth, whether it's with Fox or with NBC. It really doesn't matter. Kurt wants to do some TV work and be more of a mentor to a guy like Bubba Wallace. Kurt Busch also deserves to be a Hall of Famer as well. I think he'll be back at the 45. We already know that at this point, and he'll be more of a mentor after 2023. But this upcoming season in 2023 will be his last season, in my opinion. Up next, we're talking about the 47 car for JTG Doherty Racing. This was confirmed this past week. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is 100% confirmed to be back in the 47 car with JTG Doherty in 2023 and has signed a multi-year contract extension with the team that can be kept with the team for many years to come. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. is a very, very solid driver and brings funding and sponsorship, so it makes a ton of sense why Stenhouse is going to continue driving the 47 car. I would have had a lot of funding behind him, and a driver that's also been very, very solid as well on the racetrack. So we are all anticipating, we already know at this point that he'll be back in the 47 car in 2023. Up next, we're talking about the 48 car for Hendrick Motorsports. This one is confirmed. Alex Owen will 100% be back in the 48 car for Hendrick Motorsports in 2023. Now, Alex Owen has one thing he definitely needs to work on, is definitely looking to get more wins. And one thing to know is that after 2023, that contract ends. So, one thing that Alex Owen is going to 100% have to do is start looking to try to find maybe some outside sponsors, perhaps, if Ally does not extend their sponsorship. However, I think Ally wants to stay committed with them. It all depends on how long does Ally want to stay committed with Hendrick. Because if they extend, Alex Bowman's extending. I think they're going to extend, though, and keep Alex Bowman and keep this Hendrick core at least around long term. I think Hendrick generally wants to keep their same car that they've had for a long time. Up next, we're talking about the 50 car for the Money Team Racing. This team, I anticipate, is going to potentially run full-time in 2023. They've made a few starts so far this year. They've made around 3 or 4 starts so far throughout the 2023 season. They've had some top 30s and some top 25s as well, but generally have been performing kind of near the back of the field on pace and speed. 2023 is here. I think they're going to take it a step forward and start progressing to be a little bit faster. And I anticipate are going to bring Kaz Grala back. Kaz Grala has been with the team this whole season so far, and when he's ran, so I anticipate they're going to keep him, and I expect that Kaz Grala 100% will be in the 50 car for the money team, and they will continue being in the series next year with the money team. So they're going to have Kaz Grala in the 50 car. Up next, we're talking about the 51 car for Ricker Racing. Well, nothing really ever gets confirmed from Ricker Racing, really seems like to the last minute or the last month for that matter. We anticipate that Cody Ware once again is going to be in the 51 car for Ricker Racing. Cody Ware, of course, is the son of Rick Ware. And Cody Ware this year, to be fair to him, credit to him, has actually been a better driver this year. He's gained 2 or 3 positions in average finish. One thing though he's got to work on is stopping to wreck. Now, if Cody Ware can work on that, I think he can become somewhat a formidable foe for some top 30s. And like I mentioned, he does have a pretty decent average finish for the equipment that he's in, but he's got to be better than what he's been doing at some points as well. I anticipate that this is going to be the case. I anticipate that Cody Ware is only going to get better, and I think his performance is only to progress a lot farther potentially in 2023. Up next, we're talking about the 62 car for Beard Motorsports. Now, Beard Motorsports so far in the 2022 season has made a few select starts, and I anticipate they are going to make a few more select starts in the 2023 season, and I think they're going to bring back a formidable person that used to race in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, that being Michael Annett. Now, why do I mention Michael Annett? Well, Michael Annett, the reason I mention him is because he has funding and sponsorship. And if I'm not mistaken, he did drive the 62 car back in the day for, I believe it was Beard Motorsports or another organization. I think it was Premium Motorsports, if I'm not mistaken. I think Michael Annett's going to make a few select starts in the 62 car. Very similar also to the Rusty Wallace racing number that he used to run. So I think that they're going to come back in 2023. They've got funding and sponsorship, and I believe we're going to see him in the 62 car on a part-time basis. Up next, we're talking about the 66 car for Mbm Motorsports. While nothing really is ever confirmed for Mbm, I anticipate Mbm is going to try to run more races than they have ran, and I think they're going to try to run at least half the season. Now, Mbm so far this year has only made around 4 or 5. In fact, they've only made like 3 or 4 starts so far this year. One with Boris said, and a couple with Timmy Hill, and also JJ Ely has made a select start or 2 with the team. Timmy Hill, I think, is going to be the only driver in the 66 car in 2023. Timmy Hill's been Mbm's franchise driver for many, many years, and they don't want to get rid of a guy like Timmy Hill. He's a really successful and really special for the team's success as an organization, and we all anticipate that I believe that we'll see him back in the 66 car once again, and they'll be back in the Cup Series once again as well. Up next, we're talking about the 77 car for Spire Motorsports. Now, if I was in Spire's position personally, I would take out one of these Spire cars. However, Spire Motorsports is not going to do that. I anticipate they're going to keep the 77 car. However, they're going to have a much more focus on getting the 77 car a lot more competitive, and they're going to put Josh Blickey full-time, in my opinion. Josh Blickey has had a little bit of a down year so far for his standards. However, I think Josh Blickey is better than what he's been able to show and what he's been capable to show. I just don't think equipment has generally been there for Josh Blickey. So we all anticipate he'll be back in the 77 car. He's a good enough driver that knows how to get it done, and we'll see him, I believe, back in the 77 car in 2023. Up next, we're talking about the 78 car for Live Fast Motorsports. Now, Live Fast Motorsports is a team that is going to remain long-term. However, I think BJ McLeod is going to take a little bit more of a step back in 2023 and is going to let guys like Josh Williams, Andy Lally, and Kyle Tilley have some more starts. I anticipate Josh Williams is actually going to bold prediction. I think that we're actually going to see Josh Williams run more races than BJ McLeod has. I just think BJ McLeod is going to want to do more of the ownership side of things. And Josh Williams had a pretty solid run at Bristol Dirt as well. So I anticipate that they will have multiple drivers. BJ McLeod doing some starts, Josh Williams doing majority, then Andy Lally and Kyle Tilley in the ride. Up next, we're talking about the 79 car for Team Sage Racing. Now, Team Sage Racing is a team that is expecting to make some starts for this year in 2022. They initially were supposed to make their debut this weekend at Road America, but they've had issues getting the approval process. Now, they're still working on it. If they have everything good to go, they will make their debut in Xfinity at Indianapolis, and I think that's going to happen. Carson Marquet is going to be the driver of this car, and I anticipate in 2023, as I've said, their goal is also looking ahead at 2023 as well. I believe that they are going to get Tarso Marquez to run some races. They're not going to run the full entire season in this car, but I believe that we will see this car on the track, and I believe Tarso Marquez will be the driver of this car when they do run the select starts in 2023 as well. Very similar to what they're doing in 2022. Up next, we're going to talk about the 88 car for Junior Motorsports. Every time I do a silly season prediction, you always know I bring up Junior Motorsports. And up until very, very recently, I didn't think they were actually going to show up. However, as of this past week, Junior Motorsports and Dale Jr. have come out and said recently that they may make a few select cup starts or one-off starts in 2023. They're not going to go full-time in 2023, but they're anticipating they're going to run part-time. And I think that they are going to get two drivers to drive. First one, of course, being Dale Jr. Dale Jr., of course, the owner of the organization. I know Dale Jr. really hasn't had any ambitions of coming back to the Cup Series and racing himself, but I think it make a lot of sense for Dale Jr. to return maybe at like a super speedway or maybe a short track. Who really knows? I think the other starts that they run, however, are going to be run by drivers currently driving in the Junior Motorsports camp. It's not Justin Allgaier, it's not Sam Mayer, and it's definitely not Noah Gragson. Josh Berry is the driver I think it's going to be, and I'll explain why Josh Berry. Josh Berry said as of recently, he has had ambitions of going Cup racing again. And on top of that as well, he has some Cup experience. The only driver who has a little more Cup experience is Justin Allgaier. And I think that Josh Berry will get the nod to drive this car when they do jump up in 2023. I think they're going to make Cup starts next year, but only going to run a few select races, and they're going to have Josh Berry driving this car and Dale Jr. as well. Up next, we'll talk about the 91 car for Project 91, the 91 Trackhouse Racing car. This car is planning to run 6 to 8 races in 2023. So who do I think is going to drive this car? Well, I actually think it's going to be a couple drivers. I think Jimmy Johnson is going to do the double, the Memorial Day double. I think he's going to run the Indy 500 2023, and I think he's going to do the double. He'll go back Chip Ganassi racing in 2023 and race in the Coca-Cola 600 as well. I also predict that Julio Castroneves as well is going to get behind the wheel of this number 91 car. Now, very recently on a Dale Jr. Dow, Justin Marks said they're not entirely sure if this is going to happen, but I know that he's promised an opportunity in the Cup Series. The only other place Julio Castroneves could go to is potential fourth Penske car, which Penske probably isn't going to expand any sort of operations going forward, at least probably to even a fourth car, even if it's on a part-time basis. So my anticipation is that it's going to be guys like Jimmy Johnson, Julio Castroneves, maybe Tony Kanaan perhaps, who really knows, but I anticipate that these are some of the drivers who will get behind the wheel of the Project 91 car. And finally, on to the number 99 for Trackhouse Racing. This one is pretty much confirmed. Daniel Suarez is going to be back in the 99 for Trackhouse Racing. Ty Norris said this about a couple weeks ago after winning Sonoma. He said, yep, Daniel Suarez 100% is going to return to Trackhouse Racing. Daniel Suarez, of course, like I just mentioned, won his first career NASCAR Cup Series race and has been very solid this year in 2022. He will return to the team, continue to improve, and 2023 will be a much better driver as well and be a championship contender. I don't anticipate him being a championship contender this year, but in 2023, I anticipate him being a championship threat. So, that is my updated 2023 NASCAR Silly Seasons predictions. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications on be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on pages on all the list schedule below over that, and comment your thoughts on today's video. What are your predictions for the 2023 NASCAR Silly Season, and do you think a lot of things I have are right, or do you think some things are wrong? Let me know in the comments below. Not entirely sure what's going to be coming tomorrow. Just have to check your notifications on. We'll see what happens on Saturday as well, and Sunday for sure. We'll have the race review for the NASCAR Cup Series race at Road America. There may not be a video on Monday either, so there might be some off time coming up. Just pay attention to notification tabs. I might though have something coming up around some drivers who could be candidate for the 10 car. Keep your eye on notifications on for that. So anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's video, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great, awesome NASCAR and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.